Welcome everyone, and thanks so much for checking out this video. This is Quivering Reviews, and we're going to be looking at some of the histories and cultural aspects. We're going to be taking a look at games from beginning to end with no help from outside resources, so let's go ahead and check that out. So there's a lot of reviews out there that view games solely as a product, and we're going to be looking at a lot more of the artistic and human sides of that, as well as some of the product ones. And this is going to be super spoiler heavy as we get into exploring all the themes, so just keep that in mind. Today is all about a little game called Scrap Garden, and I'd love to be able to give you the cut and dry basics like this is an RPG, or this is a platformer, or literally anything like that, but I really can't. What I can say is that Scrap Garden is a pseudo-platformer and puzzle-solving game with a great end message about green energy versus fossil fuels. But before we get into that, I want to look at some of the more human aspects, like specifically the humans behind it. Scrap Garden was made by two people, Alexei Davudev and Egidijus Bacher. In 2014, Alexei Davudev moved to Lithuania and started working on Scrap Garden with Egidijus Bacher. Unlike a lot of games, Scrap Garden's development went pretty quickly. It was announced in 2015 for Game Jam Konobu, where it proceeded to win second place in the game design category and earned a Best Unity Game nomination. And after that, it won the Best Indie Game prize on DevGam 2015 in Moscow and the Best Game Art prize on Casual Connect Tel Aviv in 2015. Not half bad for a small indie game being developed in such a short time. So clearly this game had some pretty big shoes to walk in, and unfortunately it didn't quite fill them. This game really feels like when one friend can't tell the other that their outfit sucks, even though it really does. And don't get me wrong, the game is good when it's good, but it's really bad when it's not. And before we get on to that, I'm gonna go over some of the more fun parts. Basketball? Great. Probably my friend's favorite part. The weird nostalgia you get from this Donkey Kong, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot amalgamation? Again, weird, but oddly pleasant. The cute little robots? Top tier design. Canny? A great Wall-E knockoff. The message about green energy versus fossil fuels? It's a 10 out of 10 metaphor for me. And all of this shows a lot of love really did go into this game. Alexei and Egidijus really put their hearts and personal values into this, which is something I really love to see. The personality and humanity in a game that comes from passionate creators is really heartwarming. It feels like you get to have your own private look into the minds behind a project, rather than just consuming something. But as I said before, this game really has its pitfalls, and maybe I'm a bit more critical than most because I've used Unity and I know how to easily fix some of the more technical and unpolished issues. One of which is poor controller implementation for the DKS cart part. It ends up being incredibly frustrating, but not nearly as much as what happens when you die, which has me angry just thinking about it. In essence, you lose everything, and I mean everything. Your inventory? Gone. Your progress? Gone. Your will to live? Gone. And I just got that last one back, too. Another thing that's not so great is the cutscenes. They really come off as Dora the Explorer, and to quote my old English teachers, it's a lot of telling and not a lot of showing. Which in a game made for kids wouldn't be a bad thing, but in a game made for anyone above the age of 7, it really isn't ideal. It's a little infantilizing, to be honest. Plus, it doesn't help that they gave a silent protagonist and narrator. It's clunky, and it'd be really nice to tell that voice from beyond to just shove it. And don't get me wrong, I know that showing and not telling is really hard, and I also understand that they really wanted to communicate the point and basics of the game clearly, but it feels like they just went a little too far. I like that they don't want to leave room for error or confusion on the player's part, but in the end it really didn't work out that way. And then there's the racism. Honestly, I don't know if it was done on purpose or not, but it's there, and it needs to be addressed. It's pretty subtle, and if you didn't know what to keep an eye out for, you'd probably miss it. And because it takes place right smack dab in the middle of the game, it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth for the rest of the playthrough. To keep things short, there's a point where you have to protect a village from an angry, crazed gorilla. The villagers wear a very clearly African-designed inspired mask, and you have to take one from them and help to defend them from the gorilla. Their speech is very caveman-esque, and they're clearly meant to be uncivilized and unintelligent. What the fuck? Plus, there are teepees. So not only is it wrong, but it really comes across as disrespectful and like a theft of culture. And speaking of theft, those masks are definitely from Crash Bandicoot. So yeah, not a lot of critical thought was put into that. We also need to remember that like 90% of video games are made in the US or Japan, and video games are highly representative of the country and culture in which they're made. Racism in Eastern Europe is very prevalent and very accepted by a lot of the general populace. Not all, of course, but it's enough to make it semi-normalized. And that's fucked up. All that being said, I would still like to end this on a positive note, so let's talk about some of the Lithuanian cultural aspects that you can keep an eye out for. I raved about the basketball before, but it's not actually just because it's fun. Basketball is the most popular sport in Lithuania, and it's really great to see that represented. And another fun little reference to Lithuanian culture is the hot air balloons. Hot air balloon rides are super popular in Lithuania, and maybe this stuff is only exciting to me, but I love little references that people sneak into games, especially when they're cultural. It reminds me that this isn't just a product. This is somebody's baby. They put time and money and love and effort into this game and shared it with the world so that we could get a little view into who they are. Speaking of little references that people sneak into games, you may have noticed that there are symbols and numbers hidden on the various items you collect throughout the game. This is a really well done semi-ARG puzzle. I absolutely loved finding all the items and writing down the ledger so I could go on to figure out the secret puzzle at the end. It feels like a real reward for finishing everything, more than just getting a "you finished the game" achievement. And we can't forget about the metaphor. In the end, the game is about green energy versus fossil fuel, and how fossil fuel is going to eventually destroy us. It tries to convey the message that we need to work together and be better if we want to keep existing. And I really think that that's a great message to pass on to everyone, not just kids or video game fans. So what do you guys think? Did I miss something? Did I make any mistakes? I'd really love to hear from you, either on this video, in the comments, or you can @me on any of my socials, and you could even like or subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. I'm super desperate for it. Anyway, until next time, bye-bye. I'll see you on the next one.